Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Again, thank you very much for being with me at this new time, 3 p.m. on Thursdays. And I'm here with my engineer and co-host, Shannon. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you, Egberto.
Excelente mundo, excelente mundo. Well, today I'm going to get right into it because we also have a guest on today and we have a long blog to read before the guest. So, Michael, I'm going to be with you as soon as I can, but I want you to listen to the blog because this is, in fact, a rather important topic. You know, this week, the New York Times op-ed journalist wrote a piece that should enrage thinking Americans. There is no way it should be left unanswered or ignored. I mean, soft misinformation generally transforms into popular belief that migrates into public policy. Thomas V. Edsall takes a study and then interprets it as an American shift to a conservative ideology. This is completely false. After reading the blog of the week, I have a short interview with actor, playwright Michael Milligan. He is bringing his one-man play Mercy Killers to Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth in April and in May. Both a powerful love story and examination of American healthcare, the award-winning drama has played off-Broadway in professional theaters, performing arts centers, medical schools, and floors of state legislators, etc., etc., etc. Co-sponsors for the performance include the National Organization Physicians for a National Health Program, the Houston Peace and Justice Center, National Nurses United, the Live and Hope Wheelchair Association, House Peace Camp Massoud, Talento Bilingüe de Houston, Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church, and the Esperanza Peace and Justice Center. So, folks, I want to hear from you. What do you think? First of all, you know, this is a call-in show, 713-526-5738, 713-526-KPFT. So please do remember to give us a call. Let's talk about these important things. But you know, Shannon, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Well. Was reading the New York Times yesterday and I came across this article. And I tell you what, it got me rather upset. And the reason I was upset is because it knew exactly how to spin data. So here it goes. I titled the article, Has Obamacare Really Made Most Voters Conservatives? And it goes as follows. New York Times contributing op-ed writer Thomas V. Edsall wrote an incredulous article titled Obamacare Turned Voters Against Sharing the Wealth. That is worth reading. After reading, one should understand the cyclicality of right-wing misinformation. Thomas B. Edsall starts with a bold statement, and it goes as follows. With the advent of the Affordable Care Act, the share of Americans convinced that health care is a right shrank from a majority to a minority. This shift in public opinion is a major victory for the Republican Party. It is a part of a larger trend, a steady decline in support for distributive government policies. So says Senor Thomas B. Edsall. Of course, he's wrong. Edsall bases that statement on a couple of studies, specifically how elastic or preference for redistribution? Evidence from randomized survey experiments. The paper is a very well written paper, and it even provides a test that the participants actually took. And by the way, I took the test myself. The conclusion from the experiment was as follows. The general social survey shows there has been a slight decrease in stated support for redistribution in the U.S. since the 1970s, even among those who self-identify as having below average income. Standard models predict that support for redistribution should increase with income inequality, yet there has been little evidence of great demand for redistribution over the past 30 years in the U.S. despite historic increases in income concentration. This is a far cry from Edsall's assertion that some sort of victory was won by the conservative ideology. It is much deeper than a win or lose for any party, Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, or for any ideology. It is really about a misinformed populace. Edsall points out that in 2006, Americans believed that health care should be a government-protected right by a 69 to 28% margin, and now they do not by a 45 to 52 margin. He points out that the decline in said belief occurred when then Senator Obama started campaigning on the issue. What he failed to mention is that as health care again became part of the debate, forces against any type of universal health care started the misinformation campaign and continuously misled Americans. Edsall acknowledges that millions would lose their insurance in the Supreme Court rules against the Affordable Care Act in the King versus Burwell case. He gives the impression that Republicans are working on a viable alternative. The reality is that there is not a viable alternative. Only single payer or Medicare for all would save more than the Affordable Care Act as its insurance for all. And I've discussed that in several shows before and probably will have to do it again. Edsall points out that Americans polled want all the great things in Obamacare. They want insurance companies to accept pre-existing conditions. They want children up to age 26 to be able to remain on parents' insurance policies. They want companies with over 100 employees to be forced to provide health care. The only unfavorable option of consequence from the poll was the individual mandate. Moreover, the poll did an experiment to determine if well-informed people would change their opinions. When informed, even the individual mandate received more than 50%. Bad compromises were made when designing the Affordable Care Act to make the experience of most people with their health care almost undetectable except for the new benefits. Even with the bad compromises, the Affordable Care Act is coming in at much lower than expected cost. $142 billion lower, 11% lower. The uninsured rate fell by 33% and 16.4 million more Americans have been able to get health insurance. Most Americans do not know the successes. Most Americans do not know that Obamacare has actually increased employment and decreased the budget deficit. Thomas B. Edsall points out that Larry Levitt, the senior vice president at Kaiser Family Founder, said any Republican alternative would tend to be quite a bit less generous than under Obamacare, and that low-income people in particular were likely to end up with very skimpy insurance, and fewer low-income people would be covered under the program. When that occurs, everybody's insurance will increase because the cost of the system, including increased use of emergency rooms, will be paid by the fewer people insured. Republican attempt to pay less will cost much more, and their misled constituents will in fact balk. Edsall tries to morph the perception that health care as a right is no longer a majority of people. That's what he does. In fact, the reality of the situation is he does this for a reason. He wants to stymie any conversation on topics. He wants to do that. He wants to stymie the conversation. Topics that would offend the continued growth of the plutocracy. He wants Democrats to talk against the Pacific Partnership, carried interest, and much more. He wants Democrats to fear talking against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, carried interest, and higher taxes on the wealthy, and other policies that would redistribute income. It is amazing. The American plutocracy has been aware of for decades that a well-informed population is a danger to those who continue to extract undeserved wealth from society. They engaged the church to mislead the population at large. Kevin Cruz details this in his book, One Nation Under God, How Corporate America Invented Christian America. The Powell Memo, drafted by Lewis Powell, details what amounts to be a misinformation campaign that would have to be run throughout society. Schools, universities, and the media had to be engaged to misinform. Institutes with official sounding names like the Heritage Foundation had to be formed to give fallacies unwarranted credibility. With all the billions being thrown to misinform Americans, is it any wonder that most are misinformed? Is it any wonder that most think the American dysfunctional medical system is better than systems like those in Canada, New Zealand, France, Germany, Taiwan, or other industrialized nations with much less cost and much better outcomes? Americans are not getting more conservatives. Americans are getting scared. They're told that taxing the wealthy hurts the economy. They're told that increasing the minimum wage hurts the economy. They're told that Obamacare causes lost jobs. They're told that regulations hurt us all. They're told that the wealthy is deserving of said wealth and that if they just work hard enough, they can get there. These are all lies. Unless the lies that are slowly metastasizing into the American psyche are refuted vociferously with the same passion of the liars, Americans will remain confused, not conservative. Their minds will remain enslaved to a plutocracy tightening the chains. Their minds will remain enslaved to a plutocracy tightening the chains. That is the blog of the week. I hope you absorb it. Please go to egbertowillies.com or politicsdoneright.com and look it over. It has a whole lot of notations on it where you can get the factual information that backs the blog. But right now we have Mr. Michael on the phone. Michael, how art thou doing? How are you doing? I spoke to you earlier today.
I'm doing great. I'm calling in from my apartment up here in Harlem in New York City. And very, very grateful for you to have me on the show.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I was excited when I was told what you were doing because I've been one of those healthcare buffs for a long time, pushing. Actually, what I was always pushing is first single payer Medicare for all. Then when I realized that wasn't going to be a possibility, I started to push like hell for the public option. When I realized that wasn't going to be going to happen, I said, well, you know what? I'll take what I can get now, meaning we'll take what we can get now, but we will keep pushing on. And what I always thought was necessary was people to keep pushing. And in that light, I was told by Ken about you having a one-man show. So why don't you tell us first a little bit about you and then a little bit about your show?
Well, I'm a man of the theater. I've been working in the theater for about 20 years. I started my career doing sort of more commercial stuff. I performed with the Royal Shakespeare Company in England and done several shows on Broadway. But several years ago, I had a couple of run-ins with the healthcare system, which sort of opened my mind to the way things are for many Americans. And it inspired me to write this play, Mercy Killers, which is a one-man show which explores many of the dysfunctions of our healthcare system, and more importantly, the impact that it has on a couple. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've been doing for the last several years, and I have to say that the response from communities around the country of all sorts of different stripes has been very strong, and it really goes along to support what you were saying about what how they really feel about the healthcare system. And I think you're right to say that people are confused, and that the gentleman whose article you referred to, he really does generalize in a way that I think does not at all reflect the reality of people's own opinions and their experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. First of all, why don't you tell us, I think you have 3 shows that you're going to be doing here in Houston, and I really want you to put it out there because I think one of the biggest problems that we have with this particular issue, with the healthcare issue, is people are so misinformed, they are so scared that it is not that they don't like this, they don't want this, but they don't really know themselves the different types of impacts all these problems potentially have. So why don't you tell us, first of all, what days are you going to be in Houston? Where can people find out about you?
Yeah, all of the information about the show times and where people can find out about the show, if they go to mercykillerstheplay.com, there's a lot of info about the show. Let's see. I'm going to be in Houston April 30th for the first show at Talento Bilingue, and that show will be have super titles in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're not actually speaking Spanish. You're actually having the subtitles in Spanish.
Lo siento mucho, pero mi español es muy malo. So
Eso,
it will be.
Mira, suena bien.
And I'm interested to see the translation because the character I play is a bit of a hillbilly from rural Ohio, border of West Virginia. So
right.
I think it'll be really interesting to see that. And then on May 1st, I'll be at the University of Houston in Clear Lake.
Uh-huh.
And then on May 3rd at the Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church.
Right.
So again, if people go to mercykillerstheplay.com, they can find out, the locations and times.
Michael?
And, yes.
Let me ask you to hold 1 second because I think it's time for us to give a traffic report or one of those coming up pretty shortly. So,
okay.
Okay. It is currently 84 degrees and overcast skies. With Houston's humidity, though, it feels like 94 degrees out there today. 100% chance of thunderstorms accompanied by locally heavy rainfall at times, and a few storms may be severe. There are flash flood warnings in parts of the Clear Lake area, mainly Lake City, and tonight's low should be 71 degrees. I'll be back with you with the traffic.
The 70-something, wish it was the 70-something degrees right now, but I guess we could all be that lucky. Anyway, continue, Michael. The last place you're talking about where the show is going to be.
Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church in Houston.
Yeah, I think that's on Fannin, right?
What's that?
I thought it was on Fannin Street, but I don't know. We'll have that posted at the website, so that's fine. Now, we spoke earlier, and you said you had some actual personal run-ins with tell us a little bit about what the Affordable Care Act did for you, and what would you have done sans the Affordable Care Act?
Oh, well, I wrote this piece in response to some experiences I had before the ACA came out. But along with what you're saying in terms of I'll take what I can get, I actually got insurance through the exchange here in New York, and I got the Platinum plan, which is the best that you can get. And about 4 months into that coverage, I developed a heart condition. I have arrhythmia, so I was in atrial fibrillation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I got on some medication, and then last month I actually had an operation where they basically did a catheter ablation in my heart.
Right.
I'm completely free of that atrial fibrillation now. If I hadn't had that insurance, I would be completely broke.
Well, that I understand. That is the reality of most people. That is the reality of most people. And the thing about insurance is you don't know that you're going bankrupt until you actually have an episode, and you don't know that you have an episode until you get sick. And so it is one of those things where unless something is actually happening to you, you don't see the benefits of having this. And if you're not forward thinking, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, it's just amazing to me that, what's going on. So I am pretty happy that you're coming into town and that you're going to be able to give folks this particular play. Now, I think I have some calls on the line. So I think John is here. So let's get John. Oops, I guess not. We actually just lost John. It seems like we're having there's some thunderstorms going through here in Houston, and I think it may have played havoc with our lines because I see them constantly ringing and something happening. What's going on?
Well, I could pick it up and there's nobody there talking to me each
I think
time.
that's what it is. Yeah.
Tone. So we're trying to figure that out and get it where we can have our listeners come through.
Okay, listeners, you keep trying. I see we have several calls that are coming in right now, and work with Shannon. She'll be able to help you out right there. Okay. Anyway, as we were saying beforehand, Michael, people don't really know that they need this until they need this, and having a play like what you're coming in, I think it actually it brings a reality to them, and then your true story of what actually occurred to you brings that as well. So I think that is very important in the concept of things. But let me bring John in now. I think John is back. So let's see if we can get this stuff working. John, you're hot. Come on in.
Hey, how you been? I didn't really even get to hear the beginning of your show, but your post.
Oh, you got to hear the beginning. Great.
No, I didn't. I didn't. There was some trouble with the thing for listening to the show and then later hitting one.
Got it. Well, we're having some storms around here, so that could be it. You have any questions that you want to ask either me or Michael?
No, I didn't even get to. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even really get to hear the show, and then therefore I was gonna do some maybe some commenting, but it was.
Oh yeah, what we're talking about today. Michael is here in town in Houston, and what he's intended, he has a one-person. Well, Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the play and get John into the flow.
Well, the play is the story of a couple. My character, he's an auto mechanic from southeastern Ohio. He's a rural guy. He identifies himself as a libertarian, and his wife gets diagnosed with cancer. And the play is set in the interrogation room of a police station, and basically he's describing to the police their struggles navigating some of the dysfunctions of the healthcare system.
Okay.
So basically, as he's giving his testimony, he's also grappling with his worldview, because he's done everything right. He's a self-reliant guy. He had insurance, but still they find themselves having had to have basically sold their house and lost everything trying to pay for care for his wife. So that's sort of the context of the story.
Now, John, I tell you what, there's a little bit more context as well. You may want to take a look at, if you go to Politics Done Right for the show and click Blog of the Week, that'll bring you up to speed real quickly. What I'll do is I'm going to put you on hold and then go to Klein. And Klein has something he wants to say. Klein, come on, let's see. Come on in, Klein.
Yes, I'm on the line right now. Before you were saying that...
I think we just lost you, John. You can come back, and she'll pick you up. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Klein. I can hear you.
Okay, fine. But anyway, earlier what you were saying was that people are misinformed.
Right.
That's why they're voting against their interest. And my opinion is they don't want to think about it.
Well, I mean, let me tell you, you don't want... There's an issue with ideological thought, and in my opinion, that is where people believe that they are of a particular ideology, and it is hard many times for them to make that transition when they've really realized that ideology is not serving well. So in effect, when you say they don't want to think, or
that's exactly right. They don't want to think. They want to be told what to think.
Exactly.
They don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to look into it.
But here's the thing, and what I think, as far as those of us that are trying to bring truth if you will. And beforehand, I want to remind folks that this is a call-in show. We've had some problems earlier on, but the lines are open, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-KPFT. Yeah, now, what I think we have to do is we have to give those people a lot of space, because, I mean, what I've heard from a whole lot of folks that follow what we're doing is they would actually say things like, those people don't want to think, forget about them, don't try to approach them because it's a lost cause. If it were that simple, I think a bit differently. We need those people engaged. I mean, when you talk about things like insurance and so forth, it's not enough for just a few of us to be engaged and knowledgeable and for others to be just passé about it, because it affects us all. So we need everybody engaged. So I think it is okay for us to say that, yes, in fact, a lot of people don't want to think. A lot of people don't want to do these things. But I think it is incumbent upon us to leave that platform open where we can work with them, where we can try to convince them.
The only thing I think you have to
I'm going to let you in right now. I'll come back to you, Klein. Let me just again, Michael wanted to get some input here. Go ahead, Michael.
Along the lines of what you're saying, you know, I often have a talk back after my show, and it's been extremely illuminating. Oftentimes there are people of all sorts of different political spectrum at the play. One time I did the show in Columbus, Ohio, and on my panel was a lifelong auto worker and the former head of the teachers union in Cleveland, and they were both presenting about single-payer Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy in the audience, he raised his hand, and he objected, and he said, identified himself, he said, I would describe myself as ultra-conservative. And he was with his wife, and he was a lifelong military guy, worked in the defense industry. His wife was the CEO of a company. And he just said, government cannot run anything. And that was sort of where they were coming from ideologically. Mm-hmm. Now, this whole group of people, after the talk back, we all went out to dinner, which is sort of an interesting thing. Yes, you can't have dinner with people you disagree with.
Right.
And his wife, who was the CEO of a company, self-identified, ultra-conservative, she leans over to me, she says, you know, we really enjoyed the show. It was a wonderful performance. We just have a different idea about how to solve it. And I said, well, what is your idea? Mm-hmm. And this is what she said to me, okay? She said, well, if I was in charge, I would make all insurance companies and hospitals not-for-profit, and I would limit the administrative and executive salaries at, let's say, $250,000, because there are people out there who would love to do those jobs as a kind of service to the community. Mm-hmm. So this is coming from a woman who described herself as ultra-conservative.
And
what she described to me sounded to me much, in some ways, more progressive than the Affordable Care Act.
Again, that was a progressive statement.
Mind, it wasn't, because they were not-for-profit. You know, they had this paranoia about government-run healthcare as being, you know, there's 100,000 bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Running a system, which, so to me, that was like a semantic barrier, right? And I think that those things exist a lot, in a lot of ways, that we trigger one another's ideological defenses because we're using these sort of words that create deep reactions, but in reality, we agree a lot more than the sort of people on cable news would have us believe.
Michael, you're absolutely correct. I live in a conservative state, but in the most conservative suburb in the conservative state. And I sit down in Starbucks a lot and blog continuously while engaging in conversation, and that is something that I actually see. Klein, you wanted to come in and make your point as well, so come on in, my friend. Klein?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. I don't say that you should write these people off. I think you simply have to, the only thing you can really do is confront them that they don't want to think.
Right.
I mean, believe it or not, or encourage them to think for themselves. But that is a long process because we're not taught that anywhere in our lives to think for ourselves.
You know, it's a very long process, but guess, you know, there's something that Michael said, and I don't know, Michael had the woman come over to his shoulder and say, you know, I enjoyed your conversation. It's interesting. When I'm engaging a lot of folks, otherwise, there's another technique that I normally use, and I usually, as opposed to doing a whole lot of talking, which I'm doing on the radio, a whole lot of talking, but when I'm not on the radio, I'm not doing a whole lot of talking, I'm doing a whole lot of listening. So I would be in the Starbucks and my conservative buddies or whatever would come on in and we'll start talking. And one of the things that I started doing is I said, okay, I tell you what, give me what you think the problem is and provide the solutions, and then let me knock the particular items within the solutions. And what usually happens is pretty interesting. It generally turns out that their solution is almost identical to what we wanted anyway. The only difference is that it came through their eyes.
Yeah, so they're not going to act on it, and they're not going to vote on it. And just an example, which just struck me incredible, was in 1980 when Ronald Reagan ran for president.
Right.
Well, he won because of the labor vote, and then he squished labor.
Right.
And people did not want to see that, and you could talk to them all, till you're blue in the face.
But here's the deal: there's a cancer that occurs, and this is where in the blogging that we do and in the other things that we do, we try to get away from some of the triggers that, let's say, Michael spoke about. If you take a look at, let's say, Obamacare, right? Obamacare is really a very conservative plan. It came from the Heritage Foundation. The mandate is a thing that says we believe in personal responsibility. All of these are conservative concepts that make up this particular plan. I'm a liberal guy. I wanted general funds paying for health care. Everybody pay as you can. General funds pay for health care. I think health care is a right. President Obama didn't do that. President Obama came with a policy that says that you have a mandate. He came with a policy using the private healthcare system. In the healthcare system, profit is an inefficiency. I won't go into that specifically because that is a very long argument or very long discussion as to why profit in this system is an inefficiency and not anything positive. But we can go into that some other time. So what I'm saying basically is that yes, we can get these people to think, but we have to get away from the triggers. And I tell you what, President Obama presented the perfect trigger in being who he was. And I'm pretty sure you guys understand exactly what I meant, because he could trigger carnal fears into people that would otherwise have accepted the plan that he came up with. But they used externalities, specifically his race, to actually create a fear, an intrinsic fear, to stop that. But Klein, do you have anything to say before I go to Barry? It seems like Barry wants to take me to task.
No, go ahead. I appreciate you giving me my time.
Thank you very much, Klein. Barry, you are hot. And folks, do remember, this is a call-in show. We are light today. We had some problems with the phone in the beginning. Please give me a call, 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. And before I go to Barry, though, I'm going to ask Shannon to go ahead and give us that update so that we don't get interrupted, because Barry's probably going to be difficult.
Good afternoon. Okay, on the South Loops, counterclockwise at Telephone Road, an accident is blocking the right shoulder and lane. On the Southwest Freeway, outbound at Beechnut Street, an accident was just cleared that is affecting the right shoulder, right lane, as well as the center lane. But traffic is slowly responding and picking back up. A heavy truck stall on the North Loop outbound at Ella Boulevard is affecting the right shoulder, and on the Hardy Toll Road outbound at Barry, a stalled vehicle is also affecting the right shoulder and lane. It is currently 84 degrees and overcast skies. Expect thunderstorms and be careful about the flooding. Flash flooding is a possibility south of town. So, back to you, Egberto, in the studio.
Muchas gracias. Barry, you're hot. Well, actually, you're not hot yet. She's about to put you online. Barry? Go ahead, Barry.
Hello?
Yes, you're on, Barry.
I'm on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you say that you are the bringing us the truth, as the cartel of truth, by truth you mean a bleeding heart liberal worldview.
Yes.
That anyone who disagrees with is quote-unquote brainwashed.
Not really, but go ahead.
Okay. This Obamacare Act is a total disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are other ways to get this done without a government takeover of the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
Even Hillary Clinton herself yesterday said she would be down for an exchange program. where you can go from different states and exchange, make the states compete for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the president said that if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Lie one. If you like your insurance policy, you can keep it. Lie two. Your insurance is not going to go up. Lie three. I mean, how further is this going? Now, this gentleman you have on the line is one case of many, but there are several small businesses who say that they were damn near put out of business by having to meet the mandates of the Obamacare Act.
Okay.
And since then, do Americans have to pay a fine for not buying into this ACA?
Okay, Barry, let me tell you, the most important thing when you're talking these issues, right? There are things that are ideological, and that is fine. We can always disagree on ideological issues. That is a perfect thing to do. You can want small government. I can want big government. We can disagree on whether that's good or bad, because a lot of that is subjective. How many people want more government service? How many people don't? Okay? Now, that's debatable. What is not debatable are numbers. Numbers are absolute. You may be able to show a few businesses that had a negative result from Obamacare. That's a possibility. However, when we're talking about national policy, whenever you speak about national policy, you have to speak in the aggregate. In other words, what best serves society? And the reality of it is that in our society, and the results of Obamacare thus far are numerically absolute. You can still decide that you do not want Obamacare. That is fine. However, the numerical values are absolute. And here are the absolute values. The absolute values are 16.4 million Americans that did not have health care now have health care. That's an absolute statement. Statement number 2. The uninsured rate has dropped by 33%. That's a quantifiable numerical fact. Statement number 3. It is true that the president did mislead when he said if you like your care, you could take it. He should have expanded that to say, I'm not done yet. I made you speak, sir. Please. I
just want to say President Obama misleads the President Bush lies.
Sir, let me finish. Thank you very much, my friend. Now, here's the deal. The reality is that what he should have said is that he does not have control over these insurance companies. Guess why? Because it is not a government takeover of healthcare. Had it been a government takeover of healthcare, you could blame the president. But guess who controls our healthcare system, my dear friend? The healthcare system is controlled by private insurance companies. The healthcare system is controlled by private hospitals. The healthcare system is controlled by private doctors. It is complete and entire lies and hogwash when somebody says that this is a government takeover of healthcare. Now, let me be factual with you. I'm not done, sir. Let me finish. I will be factual, my dear friend. I do want government takeover of healthcare. I do want that. You know why? Because in Denmark, it works better. You know why?
Anybody that does not want that is brainwashed.
No, I'm not saying that. So remember, I prefaced my discussion with you very simply. I said we can disagree on ideology. I did say that, and that by saying that, I'm telling you, if you don't want that, it is okay. What is not okay is for you to change factual numerical values.
Before we run out of time, I know the other callers. If the hospitals and insurance companies are in control,
yes, sir.
Why in the world would they be opposed to Obamacare then? If I'm in control, I can make more money on Obamacare. Why would I oppose it?
The same reason that somebody who drives fast is opposed to getting stopped by a cop. Okay. No, it's a simple question.
I think that you, Barry, you use these semantic employers quite well.
Okay, Barry, let us get
anything that government does well is screwed up Social Security, is screwed up Medicare, is spending twice as much money on food stamps that a private company could do. And people get less money. So why would government do healthcare well?
Okay, Michael, I'm going to let you in a second, but I need to answer this to Barry, because this, again, Barry is very good at the talking points, and that's fine. What's important, however, sir, is that Social Security works fine. Medicare works fine. Even as dysfunctional as the VA is, it works much better than private health care. Believe it or not, I know those are difficult facts for people to use, but what I'm talking from is quantifiable numbers. And if you want quantifiable numbers, I can send you to my site, actually it's at egbertowillies.com, and you can actually see the numbers, my friend. But let's get Michael into the conversation. He's my guest. Come on in, Michael.
Well, two things about what Barry brought up. One, small businesses and business, in general, they do have extraordinary burden paying for health insurance for their employees. And he's right. It's an extraordinary burden. That's why it's cheaper by, I think the number's like $1,800 to make a car in Canada than it is in Detroit.
Yes, it is.
Because it's less expensive to cover the healthcare costs of the Canadian worker. And so a part of this idea of a single-payer system is to actually, which is different than what Obamacare has created.
But Michael, I want to interrupt you.
Let Michael tell the truth, okay?
What's that?
No, I agree with Michael. Michael is telling the truth, but what I have to say is the reason I'm breaking in is I wanted to add to what Michael was saying. It is I'm hearing some background noise, so whoever is making the noise, could you kind of with dishes or whatever? But here's the deal. The reality, Barry. What Michael says is absolutely true. The problem is those of the conservative ilk are the ones who do not want this single-payer system. The president, and Michael, I think you can back that up, the president, when he was campaigning back in 2006, 2007, that is what he actually said he wanted, single-payer. Continue, Michael.
So the extraordinary burden of small businesses is just collateral damage, right?
No, that is because businesses don't...
Is that a real problem?
Yes, it is a real problem,
Barry. It's a real problem.
Yes, sir.
There's a real problem with Obamacare.
It's not Obamacare, sir. It has nothing to do with Obamacare. This burden has been on small businesses pre-Obamacare and post-Obamacare. Go ahead, Michael. Let Michael speak, Barry, please.
Well, I think that the idea that a person's access to health care is attached to their employer is just a historical accident that came about during World War II, because businesses wages and salaries were controlled and regulated by the government because of the war. So what businesses did was they offered these elaborate health care plans to try to attract workers into their business. So the idea that your insurance or your access to health care is attached to your employer, that isn't something that exists necessarily in other countries. And I think that that's a big problem, and why I'm for a single-payer system. But
last thing I want to say is that...
you got to let him finish, Barry, please.
I do want to say that when we say a single-payer system, I think that we need to be more clear about that. That includes a bunch of different possibilities. And I think what Egberto and I are probably for is a Medicare for all kind of system.
Right.
But there are other single-payer systems out there
Germany.
That Barry might actually be more in support of. What he's describing...
Barry is not going to support any system that calls for higher taxes on any American, whether they're making $100,000 or $100 million. There are hidden taxes in Obamacare that you are papering over. I'll let you pontificate on that, but right now I think that the other callers in line, I don't want to take up all the time.
Barry, look, as usual, I've spoken to you before. You're always a good sport. Look, thank you for calling. Keep listening. And you know what? Bring some more of your conservative friends to KPFT because I want to engage your folk. Okay,
no,
Barry?
Apparently you want to preach down to a non-thinking choir.
No, sir. Just bring your folks. Hey, it's a pleasure talking to you, Barry. Take care, buddy.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
Come see the show, Barry.
Okay, Michael, I'm going to bring Bobby in. Take care, Barry. Bobby, come on in. Bobby?
I'll let you pontificate on that, but right now,
there's a problem. Okay, let's put it on hold. Okay, we are having some sort of a problem here. Okay, Bobby, we're going to try. Something happened with your line, Bobby. I think we're probably having some issues with the telephone system here. But anyway, Michael, we're going to try Bobby again. Let's see. Bobby, is that you with all the noise in the background?
Okay. Hello?
Yes, there's a lot of noise in the background, Bobby. Can you get in a better location?
I have a lot of trouble hearing if I'm on the air.
Yes, you're on the air, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I had trouble. Reception. I'm sorry. Okay. Insurance 101 is the entire sample of the population, if it participates in contribution and in use, it will be successful. If you cherry pick the way insurance companies like Barry would like, they cherry pick healthy, rich consumers and then cancel the ones who get sick, it doesn't work.
You know,
so everybody pays more.
Absolutely.
It's very simple. Barry has a libertarian. No, I don't even know what his problem is, but it's not rational.
Well,
the only way you have to disconnect it from the employer. If you do that, now small business has a relief instead of a burden. It has a relief. Now everybody gets health care. It is not up to a small business to pay the same as a corporation. It's everybody shares and everybody benefits. And Barry would benefit. And his taxes probably wouldn't be so high because he's not paying for emergency room for people who don't have health care.
Right.
Barry's irrational. I'm sorry. I hate to say that about the poor man, but I've heard him enough to know that. and so,
Barry's my friend.
it just doesn't work the way we do it.
Look,
and it's not going to work. And the only way it will work is some form of universal health care the way civilized countries have it.
Well, you know, let me tell you, Bobby, the problem is that, and I always blame this on our educational system quite often.
Right.
I blame it on our educational system because it really it has done us wrong with regards to analysis. We don't
Right.
analyze very well. And what I would do with folks like Barry is ask Barry to do the numbers. And in other words, it's not enough for you to just call out, well, you know, don't increase the taxes, because you will increase the taxes if there's not enough money in the pot, period. And that's what we do. Right now, we do increase taxes. We just don't call them taxes. Whenever we have fees, they're taxes. Whenever we have toll roads, those are taxes. Whenever we borrow money, those are taxes. There are a whole maze of taxes that we simply don't call taxes. When we have that debt that we are borrowing on, those are taxes because do you know over $200 billion of our monies go to pay rich people who owns our bonds right now?
Yes.
So, no, we are paying more taxes. Folks, I think it may be time again that you need to do your thing, or...
Hello. Yes, on the East Freeway outbound at Del Dale, an accident is blocking a center lane. And on the North Freeway southbound at Patton, there's an accident blocking the main lane and a shoulder lane. I believe that's on the left side. And there's stalls here and there across the city, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more with this rain coming. But hold tight. It's currently 77 degrees and overcast skies. And it feels like 79 degrees out there today. And 100% chance of thunderstorms and locally heavy rainfalls at times, and a few storms may be severe. So beware. Back to you, Egberto, in the studio.
Bobby, I'm going to let you go, unless you have something else to say.
Yeah. The only thing is that we'll never have this resolved as long as we expect a 6-year-old to have a job in order to have health care.
Right.
We'll never have it resolved as long as we expect to make a big profit on health care.
Right.
People in Germany, a doctor in Germany does not drive a motorcycle.
Right.
He drives a Mercedes-Benz. Everybody still gets paid. You just don't throw it to rich.
Let me tell you, I have hope. Bobby, I got to go to the next call, but I do have hope. I have hope, and I will continue, and I think we all will continue to try to enlighten our neighbors. Okay, next caller is up. Let's see who's our next caller. Hayes, come on in.
Roberto?
Yes, sir.
Roberto, excuse me. I'm thinking of my friend. Well, you're my friend as well.
Yes, I'm your friend, of course. Hey, John, what's up?
I love it. I was calling, obviously, about Obamacare. Very few people realize Obamacare is getting rid of the donut hole.
Yes.
And that is going to save my wife and I. My wife's very ill. I've got a lot of problems. I'm disabled. It's going to save us thousands and thousands of dollars. A lot of people my age that I've spoken to about this were not even aware of what the donut hole meant.
Well, let me tell you something, John, because this is where I'm going to talk to you. Since you already gave me permission to call you my old friend, I'm going to call you my old friend.
I am old, so we're okay.
Okay, so here's the deal. And this is what I tell people all the time. You have to, your old friends are not going to listen to me, but your old friends are going to listen to you. And that's one of the problems that we have in our society, right? You know the fact now. You know about the donut holes, but some of the people that have been the most adamant against Obamacare or any form of health care are those that are helped the most by it. And the study that Edsall was talking about, you can see it in those numbers. And the reality is that's the reason I said people were confused. And to Barry, I wasn't trying to be somehow thinking that we're better. I'm saying, no, these guys pay psychologists to confuse you. They pay intelligent people who understands the way the brains work to confuse you. So, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. So, I guess I got another call on one. Is that, okay, who's on one?
This is Hayes.
Okay, Hayes, come on in.
Well, I was calling about the Obamacare, of course, and I have the unique point of view that I've worked on both sides of it. I've worked as an insurance agent selling health insurance, and I've also worked as a medical biller in the medical field for over 15 years. And what conservatives don't understand, or maybe they do understand and just don't care because, they like to see people die. Because what was happening were people were dying because they could not get medical treatment inside of an ER or feasible treatment in enough time to save their life. So with the advent of the ability for everybody to get health care, it has actually bolstered the healthcare field, kept more hospitals open. A lot of them were closing.
Right.
And also, as a small business, up to certain numbers, there is insurance policies out there. There are groups of policies you can put together that actually work to keep the expense low.
Right.
You just had a lot of employers who absolutely did not want to give health care insurance because it cut into their personal profit, not to their business. Now, they got tax incentives in the Obamacare platform to help them offset what they spent on the cost of that. We've had businesses that have actually earned income on the other side of
Obamacare. I know that. It's amazing, isn't it?
But the conservative, I still don't understand what a conservative is and what they're trying to control.
Let me tell you, look, and maybe Michael has spoken to both sides of the aisle as well as I have, so I'm going to ask Michael to put his piece in as well after I say this. Here's the reality. These people are not bad people. There's a book, and it's amazing. I heard it here on KPFT last night. I was listening to there's a guy whose name is Kevin Cruz. He wrote a book on the how the religious right got, not how the religious right got started, but how religion got engaged in politics. And what you find is, think about the average conservative, or average American. They believe their pastor. They believe the cloth. So if you can convince the cloth to be evil, then you can actually have good people do evil things.
Right.
And that is where we are at. That is the reason why I don't go around the place hating my conservative friends. Because I look at my conservative friends because I remember what it's like, that the power that religious subject, that religious role model has on a person. So I just look at that person as somebody that is so far being misled. I've been misled in other things myself. You have. Michael has.
Well, my whole take on this whole thing about religion is that all throughout the Bible, Christ stated that we were to take care of the sick, the poor,
now,
and, the infirm and whatnot.
And Hayes,
so
that is
I still have a hard time understanding how people consider themselves to be Christians.
That is a
think
good.
That it's okay to.
Right. Hayes, let me tell you, I hate to interrupt you like this, but we're running on time, and I want to get Michael a chance to say something. But the book that this guy wrote actually gives the reason why that's the case, and that is the case because they were able. A lot of ministers are able to part the Bible into segments. And only work on the prosperity portion of the segment and forget about the duties of being, if you're a Christian, if you're a Jew, Jewish. All these religions have their goodness in them, but they just teach you how not to be. But let me give Michael the final word here. Michael, go ahead.
I agree. I have ancestors who were Moravians, which was a religious group that came over to the United States in the 1700s from Czechoslovakia and Germany. And they had a really beautiful motto that went like this. It says, "In that which is essential, unity. And that which is not essential, liberty. In all things, love." And I think that was a beautiful way to organize a community, and speaks to a lot of the problems that we have. Just something about what Barry was saying. I understand his thought about, well, why can't insurance companies sell across state lines? And that's something I hear from conservatives.
Makes no difference.
I feel like I could sit down with him and construct something like, okay, well, here's the deal. Insurance companies can sell across state lines, but they have to be on a regulated federal exchange. They all have to provide X, Y, Z. They have to have these things. And for people who can't afford it, they get a voucher or a subsidy. Like a system like that could be created that uses that kind of competition, I suppose.
Okay, Michael, I'm on a tight...
But that was already in the proposal. It's just all the states got together and wrote it out. That was already supposed to be a part of it.
Okay, guys, let me, Michael, give me a quick time, the 3 days that you're going to be doing your show real quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Quickly.
Sorry, my computer, here we go. I'm just punching it up here. I don't have them memorized.
Okay, I tell you what, I will go ahead.
Here, I got it.
Okay.
April 30th, Talento Bilingue. May 1st, University of Houston in Clear Lake. May 3rd, Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church.
Well, folks, we are coming close to the end of the show. I want to tell you guys, thank you very much for spending this time with me. Hayes, I'm going to have to let you go.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, look, folks, please go to politicsdoneright.com or egbertowillies.com so that you can see a lot of what we've been discussing here. These are numerical facts that we talk here. We just don't put the numbers up. Barry, I'll be waiting for you next week to continue this discussion. And with that, what I am going to say is this is Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies. You guys have a wonderful afternoon and drive safely.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.